Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to The Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. And it brings me great pleasure and great honor to introduce to you Mr. Apab'yan Tew, who is a spiritual guide of the Ajq'ij Maya lineage of the highlands of Guatemala since 1998. In addition to being an expert reader of the Mayan calendar, a daykeeper, bone healer, herbalist, he is a man that has been trained as a midwife in the highlands. Having the trust and privilege to support women in successfully going through all the processes of welcoming a baby, from guiding and healing for successful inception, conception, throughout support, care, and necessary ceremonial, herbal healing, and communication through singing to the baby during the gestation and finally receiving the baby in the Mayan ways. During the decades of practice reading the Mayan calendar and work as a midwife of the highlands, he developed an extended scheme of understanding the conscious of the baby through the pregnancy time. An introduction of that has been shared in his first book, The Birth of the Universe, The Mayan Science of Pregnancy. I would like to introduce to you Apab'yan Tew. Welcome, Apab'yan.
Hi there, Hacha, Shaqi, Rangelak. Good afternoon. This is Apab'yan Tew. I'm very honored to be received and to begin a conversation in this magnificent podcast that I follow. By the way, I received the newsletter. I follow everything.
Thank you.
Of course. Because Enolia, well, for all the others, let's pretend you're not here. Enolia is such a good friend. We travel in a magnificent spiritual way, high there in the saving of the world with this little amount of oxygen to survive and to be in the middle of the clouds and the kettle lands. We had very beautiful experiences, and differentially from another people who I'm not accusing, obviously, differentially from what happened with other people, Enoli and I, we developed a very beautiful relationship of music and singing and dancing and having conversations. She also actually saw one of my healings in which a person was injured in the knee. He was unable to walk. I remember a shaman from the forest of the jungles of Peruvian lands. And I said, no, I know how to heal that. I know how to do it. And she was my assistant. I said, no, Enolia, you carry this, and we got that. Then for all the audience and for people that is listening, let me introduce you, my best friend, Enolia, because we made a team in that travel, and that was so beautiful. Now, Enolia, thank you for the invitation.
I tell you, I cherish what you said because you were there at the most crucial time in that cross time when I was contemplating what path I was going on, and you were one of those guides that just calmed my heart and shared with me the right words that just I could embrace, that I could take to heart, and that I could learn and move forward even further. And I thank you for always being that person for me. So yes, for our audience, so that they know, I met Apab'yan traveling, and we went to Peru together in Carla Woody's retreat, right? Her expedition, where we went all throughout the Cusco area to all of the sacred valleys, and we went all over. Oh my goodness, Temple of the Moon, Temple of the Sun, throughout Bolivia. My favorite shopping person, shopping.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yes, yes. and
beautiful.
it was,
Yes.
yes. So no, go ahead, please. Don't let me interrupt you. Your thought.
Remember, for me, it was the first time that I traveled to Peru. I remember, and there's one significant thing that is beyond spirituality in this case is more like what is to be human. I remember that when we were in Cochomoco, in the highlands, in the peaks of the Andean Cordillera, I remember arriving to a place in which green has gone. It of not cultivated, but just potatoes, and suddenly we were, remember, like in the middle of a lunar landscape. And I remember also the lack of oxygen, the lack of the way in which your body has to fight with it, has to really work with nature. You have to adapt or you are going to suffer. I remember later on when we were descending, when I saw the first tree actually and bushes, I remember that I asked Carla, would you allow me a moment? And I talked to the driver and I said, and I naturally run to see this tree, and you were with me. I remember that I said, oh my gosh, chlorophyll alive. This is life. Sometimes I don't know if this is a lesson for people, but sometimes we take everything for granted, right? The life, the oxygens, the trees, or when we are told about the balance of nature, and we see this stuff is one experience. But when you actually are in the middle of nowhere, in a distant place, in the cloudy, full of snow peaks, and you return to see green, at least for me, that was, I know it's very simple. I know it's almost nothing, but when I saw the first leaves and the first greens, I was like, life, this is life. And I remember how amazing was that experience to recognize, right? We
Yes.
belong, we pertain, we also produce a balance or a disbalance in nature. But when you actually realize what is life, wow, I was like, whoa. And well, for all the audience, you need to listen later on. Enolia and I, we began to play music very happily, and all
Yes.
our drums were in the mountains, echoing our life and happiness. That was
Absolutely.
such a beautiful.
And I will never forget that we did that in the mountains of the Quiros Indians of Peru. We did that in Arizona. We've been a few different places. It's been so beautiful, so beautiful. And our audience doesn't know, but I know of the wealth of knowledge that you bring and life that you bring, a persona and energy that you bring. It's so beautiful. And I don't even know where to begin. So I think I'm going to begin with the first time that I ever had a session with you. And let's talk a little bit about the Mayan science. And I remember you not only taking the time to have a session with me um, um, to explain how the Mayan look at when you first are born and what that means, and how that uh, is so impactful in one's life, but also just the whole science behind it, and how nature plays a role, and how at conception your family, your parents play a role in understanding where their heads were at and where they were at with that. Would you talk to us a little bit about that?
Of course, and it's my pleasure to retransmit and to talk about this. First of all, there's something that is important to be said, and is that our ways of practicing has been looked in the recent years are something like more close to folklorical, or maybe to an astrology. And some of us, some spiritual guides, some academics also, who will want to also volunteer to enter into a fight for to get the recognition of this knowledge as a science, we have begun to produce materials. My book is called The Birth of a Universe, my book.
Yes.
This is the first effort, put a knowledge that has been held during millennia, during generations in the highlands of Guatemala, to be put it open to people to understand that regarding what we are going to understand as the behavior of a human is based precisely in what we call baby's consciousness. The baby is conscious during gestation. We divide gestation in three different stages. The first, we call it primary, navial in Maya. The second is the ukunabal pachak or kichak, but it means that the mother and the baby are in an interaction, healing each other. And the third stage, we call it development of, or koshomashik, development of knowledge. The baby begins to learn. Then that is the basic element. The baby for us is conscious, is receiving, is understanding not only what happens in the interior in this beautiful aquatical world the baby lives in. And just imagine having closed the heart of the mother when the baby begins to develop audition. The first thing is this beautiful drum the mother has, boom 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 boom. We all are born in the music harmonical ways.
That's right.
But also the baby, yes, and later on we develop also a relationship with the external world because the baby begins to perceive light, sound, the taste of the food. But also, and this is key important, the communication with the mother is going to be obviously constant, but direct. Whatever the mother feels as uncomfortability, the baby will feel the uncomfortability. Whatever for the mother is joyful is going to be joyful. And by the way, that's why it is a science. I need not to put foreign concepts. No, just think about the biochemical of food. Obviously, if the mother is happy, and let's talk about dopamine or any other, well, the baby is going to receive it. But if the mother is angry, fighting with the father, or suffering, being denied, being attacked, as it happens with women, well, the baby will know. Anyways, the baby will know. It's not that the baby is going to formulate concepts in the way we do with language. No, but if the baby is uncomfortable, and the point is that a baby with uncomfortability is making connections with what is the internal world and what is the external world. I always give the example of the angry father that arrives to the house yelling and making noises and feeling the mother uncomfortable. In that situation, the baby already can begin to identify certain voice and certain rhythm by listening to certain rhythm in the cardiac rhythm of the mother, but also the uncomfortability that it brings, the biochemical change of the exposure to of the woman with someone that is violent, for example. The baby already knows that. The baby already has that association. Later on, years later, if in consultation, this father arrives with me and says, hey, my baby is very rebel with me, I will say, what did you expect?
Exactly.
And this is just one simple, very basic example. What we Mayans consider to be this consciousness of the baby is even more sophisticated, because for us it's very important not only the mother as a creator and the stability of the mother, but also if there's a father, if there's not a father, if there's a counterpart. There could be also, let's say, a woman who has a girlfriend. There could be all variations. The important part is that the counterpart of the woman, the better that plays in balance, the better for the baby for the entire creational ways. But later on, to develop the same consciousness, the consciousness of the baby keeps on evolving and growing. That's why in the Maya ways, we analyze pregnancy. We go back to mom and dad. Was your dad in the house? Was your mom okay? Was this a difficult moment of your creation? Were they having economical problems? Because for to arrive to determination, to a determination, or for to arrive to a moment in which we actually can predict even behavior and to understand how a person deals with the world is always also based on to that. The absence, the presence, the happiness, the acceptance of the mother. And then we made what can be like interplay of mirrors or images. What is an excess during pregnancy is something that we are going to reject as an adult, and it's not necessarily something conscious in the present time. It could be deep consciousness, bodily deep consciousness that make us respond in a certain way. What is also very important for us is the communication between the mother and the father. And in my case, as a Ajq'ij, a spiritual guide from the Maya tradition, following a calendarical development of actions, my task is that to prepare of a baby for the moment of delivery and delivering the baby if it's necessary. Although not all the legislations in the world, sadly, are open to receive this, but whenever it's possible, or in our lands, in the mountains, I'm continuously being called to receive babies, not in big cities, but it's very important to understand that there has to be a way of a communication with that baby. And if I saw problems, dilemmas, or something, I sing to the baby. I actually make a connection with babies to prepare them, to put them in position, to swim happily. My wife and I, we call it the happy pool of life.
That's right, and the congratulations is due to you because your wife is pregnant now. So how beautiful is that to have a partner that is able to not only connect with the baby, but to be able to deliver? This is beautiful. This is so beautiful.
Well, this is, and let me tell you, Nolia, this is very important and very interesting. When you met me, I was a single man, a person traveling and open to collect more data from every case that I get. Everything always functions. Now I have been writing, my wife and I were writing a journal based on my book to add what the actual experience is, because this is my first time as a father. This is my first kid.
Right.
We have been discovering new elements into that because, well, I think that you can imagine that I'm playing the best. I'm always attentive. I'm always balanced. I'm always laughing. You know me. I'm always making jokes, and I'm always this love. And the baby has. I have seen a connection that I had never saw. For example, two basic examples. If I'm driving, I'm in the left. In the Western ways, do you drive in the left? And the woman is on the right. In this case, my wife as a co-pilot. Obviously, she cannot drive because of the size of the baby. But guess what? The baby identifies my voice, and the baby begins to move toward me. And a fact, we have seen it almost every day. But guess what? And then the opposite. When we go to bed in the night, we are in the opposite position. I usually slept in the right side of the bed and my wife is in the left. If my wife arrived first and the baby is like in that position with her, it's okay, but he's moving all the time. When I arrive finally to the bed, which I will say is difficult, I'm always occupied, I'm always interested in everything. But when I finally arrive, the baby moves towards me and stops kicking.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, then the other day, then we have been developing a new way of a communication, talking and speaking, but sensitively, that is more important. Because the baby does not understand language. And this is true. The baby does not know about religions, about politics,
no,
race.
Nothing of the human sort. Yes.
No. But it's in a creational cocoon, as to say something, and the baby can feel and perceive the environment. it's very important what we can provide, the mother and the father, or the mother without the companion, that the mother can do it on her own. That's very interesting. But still, the baby is going to feel. It's like if we were in a room enclosed and you hear noises and stuff, maybe you're going to wonder what is that noise, but you cannot escape. You will get the sense of a noise. We have that. Let's say we are taking a shower and suddenly we hear this noise and you close the water, right? And you said, what's happening? But the baby cannot do it. The baby can only feel and sense. And just imagine a pregnancy in which the sense of danger is continuous. Later on, that baby is going to develop anxiousness. Anxiousness in a way that any anxiolytic or any antidepressive is going to help with, because it's not about the biochemical. The baby was created, let's say, in this case, with fear. But also the opposite. An immense amount of love it's okay. The baby is going to be more balanced. It's going to be even bold to go to the world, to conquest and to work. Then you have to follow that baby. Then you have to push and let the baby do free.
Yeah, and I want to get your opinion too, because I remember with my first son, and I remember being pregnant and always playing music with him, always playing music. I was a very happy pregnant person, and I was excited. We had waited for 8-9 years to have our first, and so it's our first, and I was very excited. And it's funny because I used to play music all the time. My favorite artist at the time was Peter Gabriel. I'm always playing Peter Gabriel and playing this like In Your Eyes and this beautiful music. And then and when he was born, and Dad used to always fold him on his shoulder and drum, all right, 2-finger drum or 1-finger drum on his back, so that he would always feel the drum. And it's funny because when he got to middle school and he had to pick an instrument, he picked the drum and he started playing the drum, and he was so natural that we went from just like a single drum to the whole drum set, and got a teacher, and he didn't need a teacher. The teacher, who was just a high school kid at the time, was basically, okay, he's playing, I don't know how he's playing, but he doesn't need me. And this talent, this beautiful talent came out of this child, and we're looking at him going, it had to be the connection with the music, the connection with the drumming and the feeling. I'm asking because I really felt that it was a direct connection in almost like imprint that we shared with him.
And that is completely true. That's why in the Mayan ways we call the third stage Koshumashik or Koshumashik. That mom is learning from the baby and the baby is learning from the mother. I have my own case. Although I didn't continue a career as a musician, it was not like something easy to achieve in here. Still, I'm a musician, I'm a flute player, and a drum player. My mom used to play. Yeah, I play several instruments. I'm a musician anyway. I didn't develop a profession as a musician. My mom used to play cello because she was a cello player in an orchestra here in Mexico, and that's how also she met my father, my Mayan father, and blah blah blah. She discovered that, but my pregnancy time was not easy. It was a difficult time for a native from the highlands of Guatemala and a woman from central Mexico. It was difficult, especially in the years I was born. Then she continued playing as a rehearsal, but she discovered that whenever I was very ultra active or that I was kicking or moving, whenever she began to play, I was silent. I was moving, listening to her. Then she said that she began to play in the night, like 8, 9 o'clock in the night. And that was a moment in which I finally slept too, and she can cross the entire night with no movement. And she said, well, you were responding to my cello. And I was like, whoa. Well, believe me that in present time, when I listened to what she was playing and to the actual music she was playing, I felt that sense of connection with mom. It's active, it's amazing, it's incredible how listening to the music she was playing is still a relaxing, going deep into consciousness travel, even for free. Let's see.
Yeah.
The other day, everybody has this peculiar thing going to the dentist, right?
Yes.
we all have that stuff, right? We are going to be like, oh, well, in the dentist room, there they were playing the music, and suddenly jumped to this Bach piece of cello, and I was like, and I entered into the mood, and I said, wow, yeah, I was listening. When I entered into the room, the dentist says, oh, you have such a big problem in that molar, and I said, I don't care. you just you just proceed. It's incredible that for consciousness ways, and this is why I would want also the co-participation of people. It's incredible that something that impacted or that shaped consciousness in those primal days can be so actually so active.
Yes.
Reminds me the phenomena of dreaming. When you do sometimes you do dream and you have the clear image of the event, the clear image of the face, the clear sensation of everything, and that you can even smell during the dreams. Well, it's the same. It's deep storage in consciousness, and it's active as if it were the first day. And curiously, if you go, and this is for talking to people, your people, our people, and everybody that listens, if you can explore a little bit about pregnancy and what was that, you are going to find something very beautiful to dive in, because that is the shaping of the first primal shaping of our consciousness. And by the way, I also wrote in the book, this is so interesting shaping that, believe it or not, the way we choose in present time is still linked to that. For example,
Right.
choosing a parent. Let's go back to the example that I said about the angry father or the grumpy father. And let's suppose it's a man, it's a baby boy who was in pregnancy, and the father was always violent with the mother. Then the father has no connection with the angry father, but still, by looking to his own as an adult to his own partner, he will meet someone, in this case, either submissive, either calm, either tranquil, or someone he will not be exposing the self to violence once again, because it's already shaped as something that threatens, as something that
Mhm.
produces fears. And sometimes you can be on the couch 10 years talking to the psychiatrist, and you don't arrive to the point, but that is the real point. Is already deep storage in deep consciousness what the first shaping was. That person will be mostly intrigued by the way he cannot respond to a grumpy partner. And that
Mhm.
can produce a lot of. This is an actual connection. This is actually what I do in consultations. People come and give me birthdays and I can analyze. We need not to interview mom and dad. That's not necessary. It's already encoded in the Mayan calendar and already let's say filed in the bunch of knowledge accumulated during hundreds of years. It's already encoded. We need not to interview more of that.
Right.
And yeah, and a person asked me that. I saw that. I began to describe actual behavior regarding the shaping of the consciousness, and that is the science.
Okay.
And yes, that is the science, connecting behavior to a way in which a person has been already shaped during pregnancy. That is the key element. That is the key point. And believe, well, you saw it. It's fascinating.
It
It's
is
fascinating.
fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. And we could spend hours on it because I love the fact that you share, how the consciousness comes to being based on the parents and the mindset of where the parents are at the moment of conception, and how all of that plays a key role in terms of how the conscious and how the baby is conceived and how that consciousness comes to that being. So yes, it plays a direct role into our fears and our phobias and our
Yeah,
happinesses, everything. And so no one takes the time to think about this. No one takes the time to really understand, this is where my parents were at the moment of conception, and that plays a fundamental role as to who I am, why I am, and how I see life, and how I relate to everything that is around me, and how to engage those pieces around me, and why I see the way that I do. And then I'm going, well, why do I see the way that I do? And it's right there. It's all in that imprint that we take for granted and that we just don't recognize. We don't see it, or we don't take the time to learn it.
truth completely. And by the way, that is an actual experience that is very, it's sometimes it's really funny. That's what I'm laughing with. I can pick up now a selection of faces. When a person comes to consultation, says, okay, I'm going to see the spiritual guide. And the spiritual guide begins with, I'm going to analyze the conception of yourself. And the person begins to open the eyes. Yes, the pregnancy. And the person is like, what? What?
Exactly. And for
What?
those in the audience who don't know, Apab'yan does phenomenal Mayan sessions. We're going to put all of that information, how to connect with you. If anyone wants a session with you, it's a phenomenal experience. I've learned so much in that one sitting. I still have my session, and that was then
Yeah.
years ago. I still go back and I play it, and I recognize different aspects of myself through listening to that session. It's a phenomenal experience. So I kind of want to throw that out there too. And I wanted to ask you, so having that as your expertise, and then taking this path through the midwifery, and learning, like, from now beginning to all the way through to birth, what made you decide to go that direction?
Well, this is a very beautiful question that I love to answer, because it's entangled in what actually is sometimes the mistake of how we see the future. It's
Mm-hmm.
peculiar because we're always traveling into uncertainty because we're going to the future. Or by the way, we're always living the past. Barely we see the present, and we are always feeding what is coming. Well, I mean, feeding in the sense of the actual experience. The future is uncertain, no matter what. You can be positive, as I am positive, but still, I don't know what is going to be tomorrow. Still,
Mm-hmm.
I hold no. I can do my calculations. I can do my plans. I can be strictly positive and straightforward to something, and I can have a fully planification. And believe me, I am like that. But what happens precisely with this? And you may, I am going to connect several ideas. Phobias. You mentioned phobias. It's amazing. That those phobias mostly are entangled in the perception of the moms during creational times, and mostly all of the phobias are created in the last 3 months, curiously. But I'm going to jump back.
Okay.
I was looking at myself. I was in the planification of myself life. I portrayed, I was looking, I was trying to find the secrets of knowledge, linguistics. And let me tell you that delivering babies for a man in a traditional highland town of the Maya is not the way. That is
Okay.
not something that only trained woman, precisely for the fact that there's a heavily, let's say, therapeutic ways in which you touch the breast, or you feel you sense the blood, or you help with the messages, you help opening. In the ways of Mayan lands, there's no echographies, there was no epidural injection, there was epidural injection, there's no way of any assistance. This has always been done by direct connection with the mother, observation, blood pulse, and the position of the baby, herbalism. And there's no other way as we have available now, but still is always on the wisdom of the woman. When I met my teacher, I wasn't anything interested into this, and I'm going to be honest, and maybe you are going to laugh about this, because as a man, I wanted the secrets of the stars. I wanted to know this stuff. I
Yes,
wanted to
I want to
know
talk
the
about that.
you know the I wanted the stellar chart that reveals the origin of whatever, or the sacred geometry, or I want to open the portal of the gates of knowledge by whatever, right? I was
Right.
of my masculine fantasies. And by the way, guys, stop being like that. Still, my teacher was such an incredible, wise woman, also very grumpy. Let me tell you, she was very strict and disciplined. And we met each other in a moment in which we need each other, because I was in town, but I was still in the middle of living what was my formation on the Western world with what entangles that, and entering into the magical realms of the calendar and the Maya practices, my people. I was still on the balance of, I was no longer the member of the Western world. I was no longer the fully created Maya. I was in a kind of a limbo. And she has lost a couple of her kids, or her kids, and she was alone in the house, needing what is the assistance of a man for a household in the highlands, like, that is cutting the wood, going for herbs, preparing the crops, harvesting, blah blah. And she was already old. Then she found me and she proposed me that she can pay me by giving me food to stay in the house and to continue my learning of the Maya calendar. And I said happily that yes, it was a good idea. I needed that, and I also mentioned already that I was left alone in the world by family. I was mostly always a solitary person. In that moment when she proposed that, for me was a bomb in the heart. It was totally a yes. And I'm not going to lie, I project a sense the wise grandmother, and she was. She was very grumpy, but still, I love people who hold knowledge. And for my surprise, later on, I discovered that she was a midwife, and she was very clever to understand that I was anyways open to everything. Although the last one thing that I wanted to see was a placenta, blood, liquids, whatever. It was not something. Obviously, it was not something that I wanted, but little by little, she began. She began with, bring me alcohol. Bringing alcohol from the highlands to the downtown or to the closest town is a maneuver of 45 minutes at least, even in bike. Because in the bike, you suffer to go up and you descend like like a thunder. She began to see my participation. She began with the, give me the sixers, give me that piece of textile that we use as cotton. Give me this, give me this. One day I bought a lamp, and she was like, oh, it's very good, the lamp to do examination. And then later on she began with, you can massage her, because I'm a bone healer, and I was already a bone healer. And I was like, oh, I can help with that. That is the muscle of this, and the leg has to be strength. And she was like, so you do know, okay, open the hips, or stuff like that. And little by little, she put me into action. I going to be honest, in that moment, it was such an impact on my masculine Western, also co-creational ways of education, and it was such an impact. But little by little, guess what? I began to see the connection. I began to see that a woman, let's say, for example, I'm going to be dramatic. The woman who was beaten by the husband, well, she was having the baby in a certain position. The woman that was lacking nutrients, the baby was in another, or even with the umbilical cord. Or I began to see patterns, and I began to ask my teacher, and she said, yes, the baby is protesting, the baby is speaking. And then I was like, wow. Then the baby, and then the baby, you just imagine, and then the baby is like, what the baby, tell me. And she was like, calm down. I began to make the
I want to
connections.
ask you this while you're here. I want to ask you this while you're right here and you're seeing the patterns, right? Are you seeing the energetics of the baby? Are you seeing the distress energetics versus the I'm flowing, I'm blissful, I'm enlightened, I'm ready to come energetics versus the I'm in pain, I'm distressed? You know, I mean, what was that like in that dimensionality also during this time?
Yes, it's energetics. You can even see, now you have to enter into a Mayan household from the mountains with only one lamp. The old ways, 30 years, 20 something years ago, just a little bulb. We are always surrounded in this amber environment.
Yes.
Semi-dark, very beautifully cold also. Like the keros, but with trees. and you can even when we talk about energy, we can even also talk about the perceptual ways of the eye for events that are manifested also in light, or a capability to also sense light. And this is something that is very interesting because nobody talks about this. Since the Industrial Revolution, we have a lot of technological stuff, and we're accustomed to the light, we're accustomed to the lamp, we're accustomed to stuff. I don't know, mostly everybody of us has crossed the experience of being in your house and suddenly the electrical light is gone.
Goes out.
And when it returns, you are like, what happened? But you already adapted to the light. You already see stuff. You already began to see the shapes. You already began to function as in the organical ways. Well, going back to the mountains and to the house of my teacher, sometimes you can even feel the static energy, literally the static energy, by massaging, by touching, by helping, by the muscle strength. But also you can see manifestations of what we can be, signals of light, manifested in the belly, manifested in the baby, and the other one, maybe not that visual, but sensing energetic feeling of the baby, as when, for example, for example, when I was beginning, evidently the woman was more than reluctant to see him in the room. But my teacher was always saying, this man is, she was always telling me, right? And they were like, well, okay. When I gained experience and respect in town, they were beginning to experience the opposite. They were beginning to be open, and they were even beginning to ask for me, where is Apab'yan? Because I hold the stuff that I could heal bones very easily and very successfully. And they began to everything shifted when that happened. The trust and the confidence of people produce a different reaction. And as I told you, when your eyes are also not inundated by the sea of light we live in now, and even noise like the radio, the television, the podcast, or some, you actually can perceive and see light. and see sparks of light. You can begin, let's say, this creates of a consciousness sensing, consciousness energetical positions, and the babies began to move towards me as my baby is doing now. But in this case, was with my wife is like an automatic process. I just talk. With this, I have to see and to enter into the mood. Later on, I could see that how the impact of the therapist is going to change that. Even if the woman is in a strong pain or in a strong difficulty, even over spoiled, that is also something that is not that good, over spoiling. But I could see the relationship with the babies. And later on, when they were grown ups, they recognize they sense myself. Some of them trust me a lot, a lot. Like Apab'yan Tew, I can hear in the other side of the mountain, Apab'yan, and people talking to me, and I was like, who are those kids? Now I know. Then guess what? This is the peculiarity. Whatever I wanted to know about the secrets of consciousness, what is consciousness, how to entangle, how to heal, how to direct civilization, how to heal the self, how to do automatically by the self, by assistance, everything that I want to write in consciousness, I didn't discover in the stellar maps, I didn't discover in the portals, I didn't discover in the sacred, no. I discovered that when I saw the first baby in my hands. I knew that that was the key. There was in the first kid, I was very nervous. I couldn't receive like completely, but in the second baby, I began to cry when I hold the baby, and even my teacher was like, give the baby back to me. and I was crying and crying. They needed to cut the umbilical cord, and although the baby was already breathing, in Mayan ways is very you don't see the slap. I was holding the baby and I said, this is life. This is the key for everything. This is the moment the baby is beginning to sense me, and the baby was in contact with me before. I could understand consciousness and feeling, writing, the shaping of the moment. And I said, oh my gosh, I was lost. I was like, there's no portal, there's no sacred geometry, there's no stellar chart, there's no whatever craziness. But by the way, fascinating, okay. But looking at the baby's eyes, recognizing me after birth, oh, that was my moment. My teacher told me, give me the back.
Give it back, you again.
Yeah, but I've been shaking because I said, this is life.
Yes.
And obviously, you project yourself. There was a you in certain moment who also opened the eyes and everything was different. Then you arrived. Then you changed, you shift, you came to this world in this, accompanied by this river of happiness or by this water of primordial creation. And suddenly, well, for the fortunate ones, let's say in the house with love is different. But for example, there's people who need assistance by being delivered in hospitals. Just imagine the baby arriving to this ultra illuminated place with people who have no mouth because they have the mask, who some of them use glasses, and then the baby arrives to a place of aliens. And noisy and in the Mayan ways, you arrive to your moms. The first one that is caressing you and holding you is your father or the spiritual father, as I did. You're in an amber light that is not different of your environment in the inside. With the sounds and the music and the smells, you are already accustomed. And even smoke, like smoke in the sense of the incense burning or the candles, the prayers. Just imagine how beautiful it is to be born Maya. You are surrounded by love and everybody is with you. That day I discovered life. That day when I give back the baby to my teacher, I was so touched, so in another ways that I know that that day I changed a lot. And I remember saying, if I was born like this, why can I be so grumpy, so this, so the other? What? No, I'm going to go back. I'm going to reset this consciousness. I'm going to unshape what was known to me. I'm going to proceed beautifully and lovely with the world. And I remember those signs. The baby knew who I was.
Yeah.
Intuitively, you would want to see it, but the baby, when began to say, that baby, but in particular, when he began to cry and I began to sing, the baby was always like extending the hands to go with me. And I was like, wow.
Wow. So
Wow.
this has been a wonderful conversation. We're coming up on an hour, and I'm going to wind this down. But I want to reserve the right to do a part 2 with you on Mayan cosmology, okay? And talk about that consciousness with the baby and how that plays a role into the work that you've been doing for many, many years. And would you come back?
Of course, in any moment. Now we have to talk about the conscious universe. I don't know.
Exactly, exactly. But
Because
before we
the day I was,
close, before we close this, I want you to please tell us how people can reach you. Tell us a little bit about your book, and we'll wind this down. And then,
of course.
yay!
Well, for to reach me and for to access for everything, you can go to www.mayascience.com. Is a very recently uploaded web page. My web page is mayascience.com. Very easy. Maya Science. No
Okay.
Mayan, Maya Science. In there, you can find what I offer, my services, the links to my books, the links to consultations, and different other services that I can provide. Not everything is, by the way, not everything is just delivering babies. I do a lot of consultations about parenting, raising kids, but also for grown-ups, right? Like choosing the correct partner or driving the consciousness, because also sometimes we do need assistance in the sense, how can I do it by myself? Okay, take away those pills. We are going to talk about consciousness. We are going to deal with what was happening. I'm going to give you lines, guidelines. I can give a different ways of consultations, but in mayascience.com you can find me for every of the links, and there's an Nahual calculator, the calculator of the days in the Mayan way. That's the easiest way to find me. And also we can share some links later on, the same. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
So I will make sure that's also in the description portion of the YouTube. And yes, please tell us about your book just a little bit more. That's the book.
this
Beautiful.
in English is called The Birth of a Universe. Because the sense of my science is the baby is a full universe in creation. The mother is the creator of universes. And by the way, I'm fighting hard to bring back a sense of sacred femininity and the authentic role the woman has as a creator. It's very easy to think the creator as a masculine, but in reality, as far as observation goes, the universe is very feminine and the creational ways are very feminine. And yes, we co-participate, but the authentic, the real, the creator of myself, my private God is my mom. She created me. And this book deals with that, bringing back or arising or fostering or helping only in the sense of revealing or creating a new sense of the mother in creation. For to understand that whatever that is happening, the baby is going to be behaving according to that. That's why it's a
Right.
science, because we can make statistics, we can stuff. It's published in the USA that can be worldwide distributed. There's a version in Spanish. There's an upcoming Portuguese version. There's going to be an upcoming French version and an upcoming Hebrew version. I feel very
Beautiful.
fortunate that it has been well. it has been well received. And by the way, in this moment, me being a dad in this moment and my wife in creational ways, I have so much more to provide and to give to people.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to it. So this has been Apab'yan Tew. Thank you so much. And we'll see you a little bit later.